Hey guys, Tim Ford here, and today I want to talk about some Adobe time savers, primarily by using dynamic linking through Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop. We'll get into some Lightroom stuff and some Adobe Audition stuff as well. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want to show is how you can dynamically link between Premiere and After Effects. So let's go ahead and do that. I have some footage here of a train that I shot in Frostburg, Maryland. So what I'll do is I'll create a new timeline out of this footage. And what Premiere is going to do is look at your in and out points, and if I drag and drop to the new item icon here, it automatically creates a new sequence out of the footage using the in and out points I've set here. Okay, so there that is. Now, suppose I wanted to create a new title in this video, but I wanted to use After Effects and use some of the cool animation presets that come with After Effects. One way you could do this is to go into After Effects, create a new title, render it out, and import it into Premiere. But of course, doing that takes a bit of time. You have the render time, and it does take a while to do something like that. Now, the other way you can do this is to dynamically link between Premiere and After Effects and have the two products talking to one another. So as you make changes in After Effects, those changes are automatically reflected in Premiere instantly. So let me show you how that works. What we're going to do is I'm going to go to File, Adobe Dynamic Link, and choose New After Effects Composition. Okay. It's looking at the settings of my current timeline, which are 1920 by 1080 at basically 60 frames per second. That's all fine, so let's say OK. That's the settings for the After Effects comp that's going to be created, so let's say OK to that. You'll notice After Effects is now blinking down here, saying, hey, open me up, so let's open it up. So there's my new After Effects comp that has been created from Premiere. So this comp will talk to Premiere as I make changes. Let's go ahead and make a new title here. Let's make we'll do a new text box. We'll just drag a text box. Let's make our text black. Let's make it white for now. No transparency. All right. Let's just say Frostburg, Maryland. Okay. I haven't saved anything yet, but if I go back to Premiere, you'll see that if I double click on this timeline or in this sequence, there is the title I just created. And I can actually take this and drag it onto my timeline in Premiere, and there it is. So After Effects created an audio track that came along with this title. I don't need the audio track, so if I alt-click that track, so now I can just push delete and get rid of that track. So that looks pretty good, but the title is white, and I'd prefer that it's black text. So if I go back to After Effects, and let's click on this text. Let's move it over a little bit too. Let's say I don't want it white, I want it to be black. And let's change the background to be transparent so I can actually see what I'm doing here. If I go back to Premiere, it dynamically updates, and there's my black text. So let's say this text is static. I'd rather it actually animate in. Is there a way to do that? Yes, we can go to After Effects and say, hey, can I add a blur effect? So let's type in blur. And I'd like to actually have this text blur in. Well, fortunately, there's a preset for blurring words in. It's called blur by word. If I drag this onto my text, the text blurs in. So if I go back to Premiere, automatically, that's added. There it is. Pretty cool. So now suppose I want to get this footage that I'm working with here into After Effects. Maybe I want to add some cool effects to it, some cool After Effects looks to it, something like that. What I can do is click on the timeline, click on the clip in the timeline, right-click, and choose Replace with After Effects Composition. Okay, so now there's a new After Effects composition that's been replaced in my timeline, and now you can see After Effects is blinking, saying, hey, open me up. And here is the footage I just brought in from Premiere into After Effects. So suppose I want to add some kind of a cool looking effect to this, maybe an adjustment layer. Let's go to Layer, new adjustment layer. And let's add a blur to this layer. Let's try the fast blur. Here's the controls for the fast blur. Let's blur it a little bit. And now this is an adjustment layer, so let's do a different mode, different screen mode. So let's try overlay. Looks kind of cool. We drop that blurriness down. This is just for demonstration purposes. So let's go back to Premiere and see if those changes are reflected, which they are. There you go. So that's kind of going from Premiere to After Effects. What about After Effects to Premiere? We can do that. Let's go close this After Effects file out. Let's save it. Let's just do a new project. And we'll do a new comp. Right-click, choose New Comp. These settings are all fine. Let's just do some text here. And we'll say, MUG are amazing. And let's make the text red. Okay. And now we'll save this project. Let's say File, Save As. That's fine. We'll call it MMUG3. And now let's rename this comp to MMUG are amazing, so we know. All right, save that. Now suppose I wanted to go into Premiere and say, hey, Premiere, can I just import directly from a project, directly from an After Effects project? Premiere Pro can do that. Let's go to File, Import. Browse to that project. And it's going to say, okay, well, that's an After Effects project. What are you trying to bring in? Well, I only have one comp in there, so let's bring the composition in. Say OK. And double click on that. And there it is. I can drag and drop this onto my timeline. And again, I can get rid of the audio track. I don't need it. But there's my MMUG are amazing title from After Effects. And I imported it, but just because I imported it doesn't mean it's not dynamically linked. It actually is dynamically linked. If I go back to After Effects, and let's say I move this down, go back to Premiere, boom, automatically updated. So that's another way to get from After Effects into Premiere and have them dynamically linking. Very cool. So now suppose you want to go from After Effects and create a new Premiere Pro sequence from After Effects that is also dynamically linked. Can you do that? Yes, you can. So let's do that. Let's go to After Effects. And we will choose File, Adobe Dynamic Link, New Premiere Pro Sequence. Now in this case, Premiere Pro is saying, hey, open me up. I need to talk to you here. It's saying, hey, After Effects has asked me to make a new sequence. What do you want to call this sequence, and what settings do you want to use? These settings are all fine. Let's call it biking. Okay. So now I have a blank Premiere Pro sequence that is dynamically linked to After Effects. So let's take some footage here. And we have some footage of some GoPro footage of me riding through a tunnel in this is Cumberland. So let's drop this onto my timeline. Okay. This is dynamically linked, so if I go back to After Effects and I drop this dynamically linked timeline into a new comp in After Effects by dragging and dropping onto this sequence, or dragging and dropping onto this icon here, now I have a dynamically linked sequence from Premiere in a new comp in After Effects. And this is dynamically linked, so whatever I do in Premiere will be reflected in After Effects. So here it is. Suppose I wanted to speed this up. I can go to Premiere. You can right-click and say speed duration 200% speed, so I'm really cruising. Go back to After Effects, and guess what? It's dynamically linked, so this has been reflected in After Effects. Very cool. So another way to get a Premiere Pro sequence into After Effects is by importing it. So let's create a new sequence in Premiere. Let's just take a bit more of this footage and let's drop that to a new sequence. Let's call this After Effects Import, just for the sake of demonstration. Save that, and let's go to After Effects, and we'll choose File, Import, choose File. Let's browse to that Premiere Pro project. Adobe Timesavers is a project, and we'll say Import, and it's going to say, oh, hey, this is a Premiere Pro project. Which sequence do you want to bring in from Premiere? You can say After Effects Project, and that is automatically dynamically linked from Premiere Pro into After Effects by way of importing. So we could, again, drop this onto a new comp. Whatever I do to this sequence in Premiere, if I maybe put one of these weird, crazy effects on here. Maybe I shrink it down. Whatever I do will be reflected in After Effects. So there you go. So those are a few ways to get between Premiere and After Effects and Premiere and have the two talking to each other. It's very cool. Another really cool thing is working with Adobe Audition and Premiere. So let's look at that. I have some footage here of an interview. Let's play this.
I'm the mayor in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay, let's drop this onto a new timeline. So let's take this clip. I got the in and outs already set. Let's drag it, drop it onto a new item. Creates a new sequence. Zoom in a little bit here, play it again.
Hi, I'm Jenny Celine.
So it sounds fine, but it's a little bit noisy. There's some noise in the background, especially over here. You can hear it. Okay, we can work with that noise in Adobe Audition. We can work with trying to get rid of it. What we can do is click on this, then right-click, and then choose Edit Clip in Adobe Audition. What's going to happen is I'll click on this, and Premiere will actually replace the audio in the timeline with a new WAV file, so your original audio is never affected, which is nice. So let's click on that. So it opens up in Audition.
Hi, I'm Jenny Celine.
And now we can work with it. It's called Audio Extracted. It's a new file. So let's see if we can get some of this noise taken out. We can actually do what's called capturing a noise print, which means, hey, Audition, this is the noise I want to get rid of. So let's select that noise. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. Go to Effects, Noise Reduction, Capture Noise Print. That's going to tell Audition, hey, that's the noise I want to get rid of. So it captured it. Now I'll double click the entire clip, go back to Effects, choose Noise Reduction. Click on Noise Reduction. It's going to use that captured noise print and apply the noise reduction just to that noise print. So let's play it.
Hi, I'm Jenny Celine. I'm the mayor in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Much better. I'm not going to get into all of how this all works for the sake of brevity, so let's just say Apply, Save, go back to Premiere, and Premiere automatically adds
Hi, I'm Jenny Celine.
that right to our timeline.
I'm the mayor in Morgantown, West Virginia.
It does sound better. So that's a way to get from Premiere to Audition without having to go File, Export, Create WAV File, go into Audition, do the work, save it, go back into Premiere, re-import the file. That's how I used to do it. And now I know I can do this dynamic linking, which is much easier and much faster. So another cool thing, let me show you a way to create fire in Photoshop. And then we'll bring the file that I created in Photoshop into Premiere. So let's do that. So let's go to Lightroom. I have this image here. And I cut this guy out of the background. And what I want to do is add a fire background to it in Photoshop. And I'll show you how to quickly create fire in Photoshop. So let's go Photo, Edit in Photoshop CC 2014, Edit Original. And by the way, the fire thing is only available in CC 2014. So it's fairly new. So let's create a new layer for our fire. And the catch here is that the fire needs to be created on a path. So we can do that using the pen tool. I know there's other plugins I know for Photoshop that let you create fire. But this is native to Photoshop. So let's play by the rules and do the little path thing. Let's just kind of go crazy here, make a crazy path for the fire. And then click on our Paths tab up here. Click on the Work Path. Then just go to Filter, choose Render, and choose Flame. So that's new in CC 2014 of Photoshop. It's going to yell at me and say, hey, this file is gigantic, which it is. So if your image is greater than 3,000 pixels, you'll get this warning, but that's fine. Okay, so off the bat, by default, the fire looks cool, but I did create one called Big Flame, and again, it yells at me. It's fine. So I'm not going to get into all the settings here. That's a different tutorial. I just want to show you that you can create fire. Let's say OK. OK, now we have fire. I can get rid of this work path just by doing Control-Enter and then Control-D for deselect. Control-Enter creates a selection of the path. Control-D is deselect. So now we have some fire, and I did some other fire earlier too. You can look at here. Lots of fire. But let's save this out. And I'll show you can bring this into Premiere Pro. Bring a Photoshop file into Premiere Pro. And the cool thing is, when you bring a Photoshop file into Premiere Pro, there's various ways to do it. You can have Premiere merge the file into one blended file, or you can tell it, hey, let's make all those layers into video tracks in Premiere. So let's do it that way. So I'll choose File, Import, browse to that image under Pictures. And let's find it. And there it is. When I say open, it's going to say, oh, this is a, it's going to say, this is a Photoshop file. What do you want to do? You want to merge the layers? You want to merge everything? I actually want to do a sequence. And if I want, I can tell it to bring in all these fire layers. And what's going to happen is it's going to create a new sequence and a new bin. And all these layers will be individual video tracks in the sequence. Let's say, OK. Oh, and also, you can choose document size or layer size. I'll choose document size for this, demo. All right. So there that is. There's all the layers. And there's the sequence. Let's take a look. Open this up a bit. There's a bunch of fire we can look at. We can turn some layers off, right? And this is a Photoshop document, so I can actually edit the document and have those changes reflected in Premiere. So let's do that. Let's go to the file here. If I right-click, I can choose Edit Original, which will fire up that PSD in Photoshop. And suppose I want this flame to be more of a red color. I can go to Layer, Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation. Let's make it more red, saturate it a bit more. Say OK. We'll close that and save it. When that's done saving, go back to Premiere, and guess what? We have red fire. Pretty cool. The only limitation here is if you've brought in a PSD file, don't add new layers to the PSD and don't delete layers to the PSD, because the deleted layers will show up as media offline. The added layers just won't show up at all. So kind of make sure your layers are ready to roll before you bring them into Premiere. You can edit them all you want, just don't add or delete them. All right. So one more thing I want to show you is actually in Lightroom. The new version of Lightroom, which just came out very recently, has a new way to create panoramic images. So let's do that. Let me go to a folder here that has a good pano option. And I have an image here that I want to make into a panoramic image. The old way to do this was to select all your pictures here. So I want this picture, and this picture. I want all these to be merged into a panoramic image. The old way was to go to Photo, Edit in, and choose Merge to Panorama in Photoshop. That would export all three to Photoshop, and then Photoshop will do its stuff, create a PSD, and it'll go back into Lightroom. Well, now I can photo merge right within Lightroom. So let's choose that. Photo merge, panorama. And Lightroom does its magic, and I never have to leave Lightroom. And by default, it looks pretty good. There is this auto crop option, and usually when you create panoramic images, there's some stuff on the edges you don't really want. And auto crop will actually take that stuff out. I'll say yes to that, and I will say merge. And also very cool, when I say merge, it's going to merge in the background, and I can continue to work in Lightroom as this stuff happens in the background. So I say merge, look up here, it's creating the panorama, but I can still work in Lightroom, work on other pictures if I want to, and as the panoramic image is created, I can continue to do my work. So we'll wait for that to be done. And once it's done, it's going to be a DNG file, which is basically a RAW file. So that's an uncompressed RAW file. It's not a JPEG. It's a RAW file, and I can do all the edits that I ordinarily would do in Lightroom. And wait for it to finish here. Okay, so it's done. Let's go look at it. It's over here. There it is. There's the DNG it created. Very cool. And that was all within Lightroom. So that's about all I wanted to show today for my time savers. That was Photoshop, that was Lightroom, that was Audition, that was Premiere, After Effects. Pretty cool stuff. And I hope this helped you guys kind of speed up your Adobe workflows. And thanks for watching.